Who am I? Why should I tell you? When I was alive, I didn't want people to know about me. That was my business. And if some person asked some question about my life, well, let's just say I made sure they didn't ask again. I mean, why do people care? I wouldn't say I was a quiet person. I had things to say. The children I raised will tell you that. I had opinions. I read. Newspapers, books. I cared about the world, about the way people were treated, about children, and the people forgot. But that doesn't really answer your question, does it? Who am I? Who was I? I don't know. That is the honest answer. I used to take pictures of myself, self-portraits, because I wanted to see if I could see who I was. I thought I could maybe catch a glimpse of the woman behind the camera. And you know what? The more I looked at these self-portraits, the more they seemed to stare back. And after a while I would think, now there are two of us who don't know who I am. My name? My name was Vivian Dorothy Maier. In my life, I was not known as a photographer. I was a nanny who happened to take photos. Now I guess I am a photographer who happened to be a nanny. I was born in New York City on February 1, 1926. My mother was French. Her full name was Maria Josaude Maier. My father? I don't want to talk about my father. It's just that there's not much to say about him. He left my mother very early on, for reasons I don't want to get into. He was Austrian. His name was Charles Maier. My mother and I moved back and forth between France, where she had family, and New York City. For a while she lived with her friend Jean Bertrand, who was a photographer. Maybe I learned to love photography because of her. I don't know. I do know I loved taking photos. I had a number of cameras and I was always taking photos. When I was a nanny, I took the children on little excursions, like Mary Poppins. They compared me to Mary Poppins. We would go to the park, into the city, to see parades or Maxwell Street. And on my days off, I would do the same. And everywhere I went, I took my camera with me, usually my Rolleiflex or my 8mm camera. I liked photographing the children and the forgotten people. I liked catching parts of the world most people didn't notice, or were too busy to notice, or too distracted. But I also just liked capturing the world. I even photographed famous people if I could. Salvador Dali, Richard Nixon when he was vice president. At the time of my death, many of these photographs hadn't even been developed yet. They were sitting in undeveloped rolls in storage. Hundreds of rolls, thousands of photographs. Why didn't I develop them? Was it money? Was I afraid to show them? And who would I have shown them to? Why do you care? Here they are, isn't that enough? I never showed my photographs when I was alive. That's not true. I showed a few photographs, mostly to the children I took care of. They wanted copies of the photos. I told them they could buy them if they wanted them. Okay, you are curious. Why not? We are all curious. The world is a mysterious place. We all know that. We just like to pretend it isn't. Children are more aware of how mysterious the world is. That is one reason I guess I like children. And why I was a nanny. I had other jobs before that. When I moved back to New York City in 1951, I worked in sweatshops. Awful jobs. Dirty, sweaty, exhausting jobs. That's why I became a nanny. I moved to the North Shore suburbs of Chicago in 1956 when I was 30 years old to become a nanny. And I ended up working as a nanny off and on for 40 years. I loved doing things that would expand the minds of the children I watched. Once, I brought a dead snake home. Once, I convinced the milkman to drive us all to school in his delivery truck. They thought I was eccentric because of the way I dressed. I loved big hats and coats and men's shoes, and because I turned my private bathroom into a dark room. The children thought it was strange I wouldn't let them in when I was using it. I loved movies and the wild strawberries we could find in the forest preserve. The children I took care of said I had a certain way of walking. In the Chicago Magazine article about me, published after my death, the writer, Nora O'Donnell, said I had a determined and heavy-footed gait, my arms swinging in large strokes. I'm not sure about that, but it sounds impressive, doesn't it? I saved everything. Clothes, shoes, newspapers, my negatives, my cameras, tape recordings I made. And I loved to travel. I traveled the world for 6 months between 1959 and 1960. I traveled to Los Angeles, Manila, Bangkok, Beijing, Egypt, Italy, France, and New York. And I took pictures everywhere I went. I just kept filling boxes with my stuff. And whenever I moved, I took all those boxes with me. And in the end, I put those boxes in storage where they were found just before I died. I didn't love being a nanny like I loved my photography, but I must have been good. Because when I was gone, my employers would get a temporary nanny. When I got back, I took my job back. And when I got older, the children I took care of, the Ginsbergs, helped to take care of me. Around Christmas 2008, I slipped on some ice downtown and hit my head. I ended up in the emergency room. We all thought I would make a full recovery, but I got worse and worse. The Ginsberg boys put me in a nursing home in Oak Park, and that is where I died, April 20, 2009. One of the children once asked me if I was afraid of death. This is what I told them. Well, I suppose nothing is meant to last forever. We have to make room for other people. It's a wheel. You get on, you have to go to the end, and then somebody else has the same opportunity to go to the end, and so on. And somebody else takes their place. So I got on the wheel, and I went to the end. And the funny thing is that at the end, there was another beginning.